Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's session on appealing a denied DTC application, your options and rights. Before we begin today's session, I would like to acknowledge that the land I'm joining you from, Gatineau, is the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I recognize and honor their deep connection to this land, as well as the lands where each of you are joining from. The map you see here behind me, or in front of you, actually, is the map that really reflects the Indigenous nations whose territories span across what we now know and call Canada. We honor them all, past and present, and commit ourselves to learning from and respecting their histories and cultures. Any of you are new and joining us today, welcome. For those of you that don't know, the Pathway to Benefits program is a free and national initiative led by Mood Disorder Society of Canada to help Canadians with disabilities and their families access the financial support they are entitled to, but too often miss out on. Pathway to Benefits is funded by the Government of Canada's Disability Benefits Navigation Program, and the views expressed here today do not necessarily represent the views of the Government of Canada. Brief introductions. My name is Diana Vince. I'm National Program Director at Mood Disorder Society of Canada. I will pass it along quickly to my two colleagues to allow them to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sherry Mayer, and I am the National Outreach Navigation Coordinator for the Pathway to Benefits project.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Fortin.
Or you're muted.
Yeah,
It's okay, it happens.
yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Fortin. I'm the National Benefit Navigator here at Pathway to Benefits. I am the person that helps create these webinars, and if ever you contact us, I am one of the people that will help you navigate the system.
All
I'm
right.
looking forward to walking you through appeals today.
As we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. Please note that your microphones are muted and the session is being recorded. We invite you to use the Q&A function to submit any questions that you may have, and we'll address them towards the end of the session. Please do not disclose any personal health information when asking questions, which is one of the reasons that the chat function is disabled. However, on our end, we will be sharing links and a few messages via the chat to communicate with all of you. A record, a recording of this session will be shared with all registrants following the session, and we will also have it available on our website at benefitspathway.ca. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to go over briefly what is MDSC, what is Pathway to Benefits, and then we'll jump right into it for the appeals. So Mood Disorders Society of Canada is a national non-for-profit organization. We are dedicated to improve the quality of life of people affected by mental health issues through advocacy, education, and support. We provide education and awareness about mood disorders to the public, healthcare professionals, and policymakers, as well as offer support and resources for individuals living with mood disorders and their families, as well as advocate for improved mental health services and policies across Canada, all while promoting research and innovation related to mood disorders. I will pass it along to my colleague, Sherry, to go over what the Pathway to Benefits program is.
Thank you, Diana. So the Pathway to Benefits project is a national initiative, as Diana mentioned, through the Mood Disorder Society of Canada, which supports Canadians with disabilities and their families that are applying for the Disability Tax Credit, also known as the DTC, the Canada Disability Benefit, the CDB, and other provincial and territorial disability benefits. This program is free, it's inclusive, and we focus on you, the individual. Our services, as Ashley mentioned earlier, she provides provides wonderful one-to-one navigation support. We do that with personalizing and completing applications for you and helping you in that. We have an online resource hub that has easy to use digital tools. We have centralized information on the disability benefits, both federal and provincial and territorial, on our website. Peer and trained volunteers that help Ashley support you through the application process. We also have organizational partnerships, which is something that I help with, and just reaching out to like-minded organizations that help spread the word on this wonderful project. And we also have tools and training to assist some of these local organizations to help with applications. And of course, outreach to communities such as the First Nations and other underserved communities that wouldn't necessarily have access to this information. So thank you.
All right. Well, without further wait, I will now pass it along to Ashley to continue with the presentation. Briefly, I'd just like to give a little call out to our wonderful volunteers because I do see some of you have joined our session today. I'd like to give a warm, heartfelt thank you for all the work that you do for us here at MDSC, and especially with the with helping us, really helping navigation with Ashley for the program. So go ahead, Ashley. I'll be quiet now.
Yes, we very much do appreciate our volunteers and we love their help and they're amazing, all of them. For this webinar, we all signed up to start understanding why we get denied. Specifically, we're focusing on disability tax credits, appeals, and why you might be denied, what your options and rights are when it comes to appealing or reapplying, and which is better for your situation, as well as knowing what documents will strengthen your case and discovering steps to file an objection or reapply. And of course, at the end, we will have time for a little Q&A after going through this content. So, your rights after DTC denial are very simple. When you are denied, you will receive a notice of determination in the mail. This is a letter from the government outlining that you have been denied and outlining the reasons for this decision. It's crucial when you call us or when you're working through an appeal and thinking about appealing or reapplying yourself to review this letter carefully, as it tells you what the CRA's rationale is for the denial and tells you what the issues may be with your application and medical documentation. In some cases, you might need to submit more, in others, it might help reapplying with newfound information or refilling out the forms in a different manner, as it might not be as effectually described as you're living with your impairment. And the CRA may not see that. If we could go to the next slide. There are multiple options once you get this letter for appealing. In a lot of cases, it might make more sense, instead of appealing, to reapply for the DTC, as you can do that at any time. By reapplying, you can ensure that your new application has the information that the government wants, and there's no record or no understanding of the previous application to bias a reviewer. And your new application can be more specific and talk about more how you're restricted and how severe your restrictions are when it comes to your disability. The second option when it comes to appealing is simply adding more medical information. If there were details about your restrictions that were not included in your original application, you can write a letter to the CRA and ask for a second review. In this, you can include a letter from your medical practitioner that details new information about your restrictions in the categories that CRA is looking for, or you are able to submit more medical reports and medical documentation that supports your DTC application. And really, if you call me, for example, and explain what's happening, it's really a individualized approach when it comes to deciding whether you want to reapply or simply add more information. And it all depends on what is in that letter of determination, where we will make that decision on whether it's easier and simpler to reapply or it's just as easy to submit more information. It's really a personalized decision and approach that you need to be aware that there are two options in a simple circumstance for appealing. Next. Thirdly, if you don't have any more information, but you also don't agree with the decision, you can submit a formal appeal or a second review without submitting any extra information. The main way of doing this is legally through writing a letter to the Chief of Appeals explaining why your application should be approved. Or if you've went through the whole process of the Chief of Appeals, second review, all steps of appeal, you can also appeal through tax court. And you can contact an advocate, or if you work with a lawyer, you can contact them for assistance through this process. Next. A couple of key things that you need to know is that you may reapply for the DTC at any time, especially if your medical situation changes. Even if you have the DTC or receive the DTC, you're able to reapply, especially if, for example, the impairment was expected to last 12 months and now it lasts a lifetime. This can change the timeline of your DTC significantly. And once you're rejected, you can also reapply for the DTC at any time after, where with an appeal, you only have about 90 days to decide to appeal. And the government will tell you in that letter of determination how long you have to get the documents and to appeal. Secondly, you need to have the evidence to back your claims when you are appealing. Applying for the DTC, while very difficult, is also simultaneously easy, as a lot of it, if you have a good family doctor, a lot of it is on your doctor to fill out and determine your levels. That is also where the difficulty happens. So when we're considering whether or not reapplying or we're considering the appeal approach, it really does depend on the support of your family doctor. If you do not have a supportive family doctor, or even if you do, you need to ensure that you have all your evidence lined up, such as ensuring that all the medical forms that apply to you are complete, ensuring that your doctor uses specific language describing restrictions and not just focuses on your disability and diagnosis. Yes, you can assume that somebody with two broken legs can't walk, but they need you to describe exactly how it affects you. It is not based on diagnosis. And when you're appealing, you need to add more documentation on assistive equipment and home adjustments if relevant to live with your disability. And this can even include something as simple as medication. Ensuring that you have a clear view of how your disability affects your life and how it does severely and markedly restrict your daily living is key to getting an appeal and sending in that information and or reapplying when you're looking at the disability tax credit. Next. There are multiple reasons why applications are denied. Quite a few of them are just due to incomplete or unclear medical information, where your doctor may have marked things as less severe or may not have given concrete examples of how your disability markedly and restrictedly restricts your daily living, where they might say that you have heart failure, but fails to explain that you have difficulty walking 10 meters, or you have difficulty, say, if it's a mental illness, you have difficulty talking to people or understanding danger. You really need to, even if it's obvious, you and your doctor need to enumerate on these forms on how exactly your disability affects your life. As they're not doctors looking over your disability tax credit, they don't necessarily understand diagnoses. Secondly, which goes hand in hand with this, is that you may not meet the CRA's definition of market restriction, which is that it has to last at least 12 months and you have to have a certain amount of restrictions in one category or two or multiple restrictions in multiple categories, such as feeding, dressing, walking, daily activities. If you don't meet the severity index that the government lays out for the disability tax credit, you might get denied. And this can also tie into incomplete or unclear medical information where your doctor might have downplayed it. But the CRA does have a rather strict code that they index that they go off of on what meets a market restrictions. Thirdly, you might miss details on duration. A lot of people will become disabled and say if it's an injury and apply for the disability tax credit right away, where the best case is to have, sadly, is to have been disabled for about 12 months or more, and the government has the ability to get information on that through your doctor. And they will look at how long you've been disabled as part of this application. Because the disability tax credit is for individuals that are expected to be disabled for 12 months or more. And the most average case is that you receive the DTC for about 5 years, and then you have to go through the process again. And lastly, it might be something as simple as having an error in your T2201 form or errors in supporting documents that might be contradictory to the story you're trying to tell. And really, the applications for the disability tax credit are a story that you're telling about yourself. And by having errors in these documents, it can lead to your application being denied and you needing to appeal or reapply. Next slide, please. Common documents when you're looking at an appeal can vary based on your specific situation. Assuming that you have a family doctor, assuming that your family doctor cooperates and understands your disability well, a common document is a letter from your medical practitioner outlining the impact of your disability, why they think you're reviewing and appealing, and that you should get the disability tax credit, and that they disagree with the outcome. Along with this, or if you do not necessarily have a medical practitioner that supports you through this process, you can submit medical reports or functional assessments from specialists that might not be named to fill out this form, the T2201 form. You can submit hospital discharge summaries or diagnostic imaging results, therapy or rehabilitation notes showing functional limitations, occupational therapy or physiotherapy assessments detailing limitations in mobility or daily living, cognitive or psychological evaluations for mental function impairments. There are multiple ways to show and to get your point across. While the best is for a family doctor to submit a letter or submit their documentation, you can also take it on yourself. It's just a little more complicated, and that's when we can talk one-on-one or walk through what documents might help you specifically, as every appeal is personalized and individual. No two appeals are the same. Next, please. There's even more information that I've heard that you can apply with and send information with. While to apply, you do need your doctor to fill out Form T2201. When you're looking at an appeal and sending in more information, you can also send in medical lists and treatment histories, records of your assisted devices, such as a wheelchair, hearing aids, cane, anything that helps you with daily living and life, and letters from other healthcare professionals, such as your nurses, social workers, or even if it's a nurse or somebody that comes and checks on you in your home. They all are able to write letters confirming restrictions and be further evidence of you being eligible for the disability tax credit on top of your doctor's note and form. Next, please. When it comes to strengthening your appeal, there are a few things that we need to consider. First, you need to explain how your impairment affects your daily living. You need to explain in numerical terms and in practical terms how it affects you. For example, you cannot walk more than 100 meters, or you take a certain amount of time to walk 100 meters. Or when it takes you double the time to, say, pay or take out cash. There's multiple ways to enumerate and to explain how your impairment affects daily living. You just need to be able to do so. And what I always recommend to people is keeping a diary somewhat or a notebook that has examples of how it affects your daily living and how you're able to meet the criteria so that you have specific examples and the CRA agent reading it can understand. And the third thing is that you need to ensure that your condition is severe and prolonged. And I can walk through any I can walk through any of the requirements in detail when I'm working one-on-one, but ensuring that you meet the severity and your condition lasts longer than 12 months is paramount, and demonstrating that is paramount to your appeal. And you can include all supporting evidence up front. When you're submitting your appeal, I've heard success of people writing a cover letter describing exactly what they've included in the appeal and the document and give a story of what the documents say, and I've heard that very much strengthens the appeal, and I've seen that firsthand. Next, please. And on that note, we're on the potential format of your appeal. Once again, this is very individualized when it comes to every appeal. First, you have your cover letter. You explain who you are, your social insurance number, why you're appealing, and what documentation you have for your appeal. I always recommend numbering your documentation for appeal, like somewhat you are doing a legal document. By numbering it, you're able to tell the story and to ensure that it's organized for the CRA agent who doesn't necessarily have as much time as they should to look over your review. And after that, you include your doctor letter on why you're appealing, how they disagree with the ruling, and going through your disability again, and then any medical documentation and functional assessments. By kind of having this sandwiched where all the information that they need is up front and then the supporting documentation is in the back, it allows the CRA agent or worker looking through it to really see that A, there's evidence to back up the claims, and B, that your your doctor is upfront and there's nothing that you're hiding. Where any other order can get very confusing for the person reviewing. And it's crucial to have these sandwiched, and depending on your situation, um, it really depends on what you're including. Next, the timeline. The timeline for the appeal is that you have 90 days to file an objection after denial. And after you submit your objection, the CRA review can take weeks or months. So it can be very, very slow. They already take about 8 to 12 weeks to look over your initial application. So by appealing, it takes a little bit longer. And if you need to go multiple levels up, your tax court appeals take even longer, and you will need legal advice when it comes to the tax courts and making your case. Next. I know I just sent a lot of information your way, and I know that there are a lot of questions, I'm sure. I also have some commonly asked questions if we need a minute to think. But before we begin with the Q&A, I would just like to take a minute to remind you of the housekeeping, and that we would prefer if you not share any PHI, personal health information, either in the Q&A or if you're speaking. That can be done one-on-one. Anything that you don't want included in the recording, please ensure that anything you're asking or saying that you're comfortable having in the recording. And on that little reminder, we're ready for the Q&A.
So there were a few little questions, but it was more following the recording if it's going to be available to people. So I've been answering them, typing away in the Q&A. I'm inviting people to also raise your hand if you're not in the mood to drop a question into the Q&A. Feel free to raise your hand, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions live. I don't see
While,
anything come in, but oh, we do have somebody here that we do
oh,
have
perfect.
Zara. Zara, go ahead.
Hello, I hope you can hear me correctly.
Yes.
Good, good. I have a question about ODSP. Is it possible that someone get ODSP and then decline for uh, disability tax benefits?
ODSP and the disability tax credit they're two separate benefits. ODSP in, is for cash, and it's a benefit that allows for monthly income, where the
Yeah.
disability tax credit is specifically for federal taxes. They are two separate entities, and you do not need one versus the other. You can easily have ODSP and not the Ontario
So
and
the
not the
criteria
disability
is
tax credit.
so it's easier to get ODSP, but it's not so easy to get Canada to uh, get DTC. So because
Yes.
of this, some people have it and they're not eligible for the other. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Because they're two different provincial benefits, and federal have different requirements, and federal can be a little tighter on the requirements.
You're right. You're right. Thank you.
Okay, we have another hand up, and then I am seeing a couple of
Yes.
Q&A questions. So I'll allow Margaret if you'd like to ask your question.
Good afternoon. I have two questions. One is, what are and where are the eligibility requirements for DTC? Does the federal government let you know what they are, or the CRA let you know what they are, or do you just have to guess. Just fill out the form and guess what. And the other question is, many people who I know don't have access to computers. So how do they get in touch with the mood disorder? Like, how do they contact Ashley to get help one-on-one without a computer?
We'll answer your second question first, as Diana has lovingly put it on the screen. Without a computer, they are able to call us or text us at 1-888-795-9990. That is the best way without a computer, as
This is
our other ways.
975.
Pardon?
975, yes. 975,
Yes,
correct.
975.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And as for the first, as for your first question, I focused more on the appeal process in this webinar. For context, we do have another webinar that we have on our recordings page, showcasing the disability tax credit and the requirements. We also have the requirements on our website. But when applying for the disability tax credit on the Form T-2201, it very explicitly lays out exactly what they're looking for when it comes to restrictions. For example, they ask if you have difficulty social or very specific questions about your habits and feeding at times. And for example, one of the questions is ability to see danger. They're very specific with what they have on their T-2201 form that your doctor will fill out, and they're looking for mostly severe or markedly severe in order to get the tax credit. So we can definitely send a link in the chat
I
to
did.
our previous, there we go.
There it is.
Our previous webinar is the best to get that information from, but you can also get it on the CRA website as well as our own website. And I can go more detail one-on-one if you're interested in the specific requirements.
Thank you so much.
Of course, you're welcome.
Of
And so
course.
I included the link that you are going to find in the chat, takes you to our webinars page. And what you'll see is at the top, you'll always see the upcoming webinar. But if you scroll down, you'll be able to see all of the previous monthly webinars that we've been holding since September 2025. You'll be able to view them. So it'll give you, and there's different topics. So you'll be able to get a lot of information there.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'd like to go into the Q&A, but I will let you know, Ashley, I'll answer the first one. It's from Brianna Robinson. If we are working for a disability organization in a Canadian province, how do we get involved with your organization to help support our clientele in these processes? This is wonderful, Brianna. We'd be so excited. We have Sherry here that's joining us from the team today. We have your email that we'll be able to pull from registration. We're more than happy to reach out to you and let you know what it looks like a possible collaboration between our two organizations. So we'd be happy to do that. The next question is from Andrea Lazar. I have a client who was entitled to the DTC since he was 5 years old. And once he turned 18, he applied and was denied. His disability is a hearing loss, partial. What would be the best position to take on appealing this decision? Nothing has changed with his hearing loss. He still wears his hearing aids and has accommodations for school, etc.
Well, if it's within the 90 days, you can definitely appeal and send more information in. If it's past the 90 days, it's crucial to reapply and get his audiologist and doctor to fill out the form T2201. And it might be the best case to have an audiologist fill out the form rather than a family doctor when it comes to hearing loss. However, what happens is really determined by how long it's been since the appeal. If you need any help, you can feel free to call us with this information if you would like, and we can definitely help your client.
Okay, the next question is from Crystal, and we have, so not sure if this can be helped, but I have a client who was approved for the DTC for their child and was hoping to use the back payment to help cover the price of therapy. She owes the CRA money from CERB, and they will be taking all back pay. Is there a way that she can appeal that?
I think that is a tough question, and I would suggest that you would talk to a uh, accountant or somebody in more understanding with specific tax implications on that. Um, and I don't necessarily feel comfortable answering that as with tax specific questions, it's very individualized and close to the CRA.
Okay. Another question that just came in from Susan is if I was denied and start a new application, does a back payment still occur?
Yes, a back payment still does occur. It does not matter when you submit your application. Once it's approved for however long your application takes, you'll get back paid. For example, if your doctor said your disability started in 2020, you'd get that 5 years of back pay. It does not matter if you're denied and then start a new application. All that matters is that you have an application that has a long back pay, and they will still redo your taxes and look at your back payment.
Okay. I do not see any further hands up or any other questions remaining in the Q&A. Oh, there is one that just came in. How difficult is it to apply for CCP disability? I did receive ODSP until I was 65.
Uh, in this case, I would recommend that you call as or chat or email. We're gonna give that information again soon, as I would love to keep this. I would love to help you, but this webinar is helping about the DTC and appealing.
Okay. Will ODSP clawback slash take a DTC back payment?
No, the DTC back payment is considered the same as a tax refund. So if you receive a back payment, it's the same as a tax refund, and they do not claw back tax refunds.
Okay. All right. Don't see anything else coming in, but I am keeping an eye out on the Q&A. Um, We'd like to thank you for being with us today. So the reason that the session is recorded is so that registrants that have registered but unable to attend can watch the recording. We will be sharing that with all registrants roughly within a week following this session. As you may have noticed, there has been a feedback survey that has been shared with you in the chat. We always love to hear what you think about our sessions, or if you'd like to share your ideas about, any other topics that you'd like for us to cover. That's really that would be great as well. Um, Also, an invitation has been shared in the chat. Our next session will be on avoiding scams and pitfalls when pursuing disability benefits, and that will be taking place on the 23rd of February, 2026, always from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We invite you. I shared a link to register. Hop on the registration. We'd love to see you there. If there are no other questions, I'd like to thank both of my colleagues, Ashley and Sherry, for joining us today, along with all of you for taking the time to join us. We always love hearing from you, answering any questions that you may have. And we just have a little pop of question that came in. My neighbor was taken off ODSP at 65 and placed on Canadian pension plan. And guaranteed income for seniors. I don't think you can go on ODSP after 65, she says.
That is correct. Most, I believe you can get the disability tax credit after 65, but most other benefits other than CPP and OAS, you cannot get after 60,
Okay.
after 65.
Okay. All right. So once again, thank you so much to everybody that took the time to join us today. You can visit our website at any time, benefitspathway.ca, or give us a call at 1-888-975-9990. You can also email us at info@benefitspathway.ca. On our website, we also have a chat function if ever you're interested in chatting with our benefit navigators. We're more than ready to respond to any live chats. And don't forget that our 1-888 number, you can also text us at your convenience. So we try to make as many channels of communication for us to better serve all of you. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day.